So this week, the team behind Identity V will be revealing some of their plans for 2024, likely releasing information on new characters like they've done every year. While there is no certainty about who to expect to arrive at the manor this year, I would like to speculate on 3 of the characters derived from the lore that are very deserving of an invitation. Now, in the interest of making this video more entertaining than a mere list, I'll introduce each of the anticipated characters while explaining their significance in the lore as in-depth as possible, and then assess their likelihood of becoming playable. First, and most likely to join the manor, is Miles Donald. Described as a young man with a tall nose and deep eyes, Miles Donald was a veteran officer presumably stationed in Japan, and, when attending a banquet, discovered a young geisha draped in a red kimono dancing beautifully, Michiko. Miles watched her in profound admiration, and to Michiko, this was the look of true love, transforming her from a soulless puppet into a woman inspired by passion. Swiftly getting married and sailing to settle in Miles' home country, social pressures and familial drama led to Michiko feeling a sense of underlying misery in her life, though the happiness she felt with Miles had her endure the lurking despair. To symbolize the cultural exchange of their relationship, Miles gifted Michiko with a handcrafted butterfly hat pin, 6 inches long and with a sharp tip. Unfortunately, Miles was sent off to be stationed far away in India, leaving Michiko with Miles' father, a gloomy old man who found her to be an unpleasant woman. Nearing the end of his post, Miles received a telegram from his father that Michiko assumedly ran away, and for him to make a quick return home. According to his father, Michiko ran away with his servant, stealing the family's possessions to fund their escape. Not believing this betrayal, Miles posted missing posters all over the city hoping to find her. And he was right to doubt his father's story, as it seems that it was Miles' father who arranged her death and disposed of her body under a fake name. Martha Behamphil, a friend of Miles whom he met in the military, was tasked by him to track down Michiko's hat pin, an item that was circling auctions only for it to be sold to a mysterious buyer. Martha insisted on visiting the buyer's manor and sent the address to Miles to arrange a meeting there. Miles arrived at the manor 3 days after Martha was supposed to, but the manor's servant suspiciously gave no recognition of her whereabouts. Instead, a servant handed over Michiko's hat pin to Miles, albeit damaged and sharpened almost as if used as a weapon. Although allowed to leave with a hat pin, Miles chose to participate in the manor owner's games, to discover more about Michiko's whereabouts and put an end to the story of her disappearance. Given that a package of Miles' belongings, the hat pin, and a photograph of the couple were sent to his military department, we can assume that he probably didn't fare well in these games. Perhaps though it was through his identity that the manor owner was further able to attain Martha Behamphil's active duty information to utilize in a later game. While Miles Donald becoming a playable survivor switch for Geisha has been a long anticipated theory, I do think the prospect is almost inevitable, and I really hope to see it come to fruition this year. As a survivor, he will likely retain his title as a veteran or military officer, even though these are both titles similar to traits in existing characters. Next, and another likely hunter to survivor identity swap, is Arthur Byers. While on vacation with his family to the beautiful, tranquil lakeside village, Arthur Byers and 6 other children went missing. You see, the villagers worshipped an ancient power and gave sacrifices to appease it, luring families with children to secure a supply of offerings. Unlike the others, however, Arthur was actually discovered. Scribbling strange symbols, the toddler was found a mile from the village, soaked to the skin, absent-minded, gibbering, and needing psychological help. Subconsciously, Arthur would fall into a trance, soaking rocks with animal blood, wriggling and twisting like a mollusk, refusing to recall any memory of Lakeside Village. As he matured and the distance of time grew between his memories of Lakeside, Arthur's behaviors seemed to normalize, and his abnormal trances were few and far between. However, Arthur's connection with Lakeside was never truly diminishing. Arthur returned to Lakeside to participate in a feast for the ancient power. This feast ended with the police discovering Arthur's sweets soaked in blood, and the disappearance of the villagers, of who seemed to have been taken from their boats. A successful ritualistic mass sacrifice? Potentially. Arthur documented the experience in his novel Lakeside Trails to large popularity, so much so that fans donned the symbol of the lake's ancient power and voted Arthur Byers into political office as a senator. On the eve of his re-election, Arthur's curiosity took him to Lakeside Village once more, accepting an invitation to play a game of seeking knowledge. Immediately, Priestess Fiona Gilman recognized her connection to Arthur Byers and they spoke in a language the other participants couldn't understand. During the game, it's known that Arthur Byers ended up sacrificing Fiona to the ancient power, and in turn, all participants except for Professor Lucino DeRusi, who the ancient power may have had unique respect for, vanished into pools of cold lake water. Arthur Byers will definitely present as Feaster's identity swap, and likely retain the title of senator or politician, but maybe writer, given he presented himself as one in the game. Next is Edmund Reed, a police officer assigned to investigate Jack the Ripper's crimes. Edmund Reed found himself subject to the manor's game of justice. Edmund held tight to his beliefs of justice and fairness, but was manipulated by Jack for doing so. When Jack irreversibly harmed Keegan the clerk, another player in the game, he placed blame and guilt on Edmund for indirectly causing the attack. This also had Philippe the wax artist supplied with leverage to negotiate with Edmund. Edmund Reed will likely be the survivor swap for Jack the Ripper, and retain his position as police officer. Otherwise, it's expected that we'll finally see entomologist Mellie's hunter swap given Fool's Gold's addition to the game. But let me know what you think her abilities will be, and who else you think should receive an invite to the manor this year. Additionally, I want to know if some of this lore is news to you and what questions you still have about it, because I know IDV lore is pretty confusing, vague, and incomplete. As always, thanks for watching, and happy hunting.